Hello, Louisville. Guess who's coming to dinner? Hello, Louisville. Welcome back to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And this evening we have a very special guest, a young lady that I actually met years ago when I attended a ladies' conference over at St. Stephen's. And my girlfriend, Faye Russell, Level, invited me. And at that gathering, it was very uplifting and spiritual. I was honored to meet Councilwoman Paula McCraney. How you doing, girlfriend?
Hello, Miss Janice.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, I had to invite you. I said I had the Louisville Defender, and you were asking the question, why are we so angry?
Yes,
I was
yes.
like, what? Why y'all think we're angry?
Come on now.
So we're gonna talk about the angry part, but first I want you to tell me about District 7, right?
Uh-huh.
What area it covers, what you
Okay.
got going on in District 7. Come on, talk to me.
Okay. Well, it's a very unique opportunity for me. I live in the city of St. Matthews.
Okay.
So that's where you have to run within your district.
Right.
And surprise, surprise to a whole lot of people, I was elected, and
Hello.
district covers over 28,000 people that spans from Chenoweth Lane, which
Okay.
covers Mockingbird Valley, Druid Hills, moving on up Brownsboro Road to Windy Hills. And then you go over to Shelbyville Road, parts of St. Matthews, coming on up to Linden, and then
Okay.
all the way down to Goose Creek. So it
Okay.
covers River Road
Ooh,
to Shelbyville Road.
wow.
Yes.
That's a vast area.
Yes, it's an incredible district, and I'm honored to be serving in this particular area. I actually had a couple of people to say to me, "How did you pull that off?" Well, God's in control. We know
Look,
this, okay?
will you tell somebody?
But they better know.
We're not in control of anything. We're just here
Mhm.
going through the motions saying,
Yeah,
okay, Lord, should I go to the left or should I go to the right?
and we ought to let Him guide our steps and
Yes.
order every
Order our
we make.
steps. Help me,
Mhm.
Jesus. Help
Yes,
me.
yes.
So do you have any initiatives going on? What's going on in your district that you're working on right now?
Well, this district is made up of over 20 small cities. And they're, yes, suburban cities.
Wow.
They have their own governments, they have their own mayors, and they have their own city councils. So there's not a lot that I have to worry about because those governments take care of their own. Linden has its own government, St. Matthews has its government,
Right.
and Windy Hills has its government. And so there's just so many of those in District 7. So my task is to make certain that I'm always in communication with those mayors and make sure that I understand what their initiatives are and that if I can partner with them, I'm willing to help them. But we can't use Louisville Metro government monies to help another city, but sometimes our districts butt in that.
Mm-hmm.
Case in point, one project that I have going on is it partners with Linden, the city of Linden,
Okay.
where they're very good at paving their streets very often and maintaining them because they just have a small portion of their city. They don't have the whole Louisville
Right.
metro government,
Right.
right? So they take care of their streets much better than we're able to take care of ours because Louisville Metro is so large. But
Right.
what I am finding out is parts of the city of Linden stops at a particular point and Louisville Metro government picks it up. So they're paving on a couple of streets, but a cul-de-sac, maybe 13 or 14 homes may not be paved. So you
Right.
see where the paving goes all the way down the street and then it stops. And then you have the circle of homes who don't get paved. Well, when I find that out, that's the money that I can use out of my funds to
Right.
pay that, because that is Louisville Metro government roads, but not Linden.
Okay. I got
So
you.
yeah, so those types of things are going on. We do a lot of sidewalks that we install, and I'm right now looking at putting a turn signal at Her Lane and Westport Road. That's one
Okay.
of the busiest intersections in our city. And so, a lot of things like that. We're looking at people trying to put developments in the district, and District 7 is so dense. We don't have a lot of just free open land, but
Mm-hmm.
you find developers to find a piece of land and they want to put a big construction site there, a 200 or 300 apartment complex there. So I have to always be mindful of those things, keep the constituents up to date on those types of developments. And it's never a dull moment. Never a
Well,
dull
I'm
moment.
going to tell you, they have a very elegant councilwoman.
Oh my.
I'm looking at you. I said, you're just as bright and vibrant, and it's like, well, you should be able to be their councilwoman. Why wouldn't you be able to be their
Why not?
councilwoman?
Why,
We
sometimes we
find
get
out that some people
ourselves.
do have good taste.
Well, in that something. Well, can I tell you a story about this?
Sure, sure.
Well, I don't know. I don't know your listening audience if they're ready for this.
Oh, they'll have to get ready because I want to hear people's voices. I want to hear what they have to say and share with the community. See, this is the chance that they get to see maybe another side of Miss
Yeah.
Paula McCraney.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, this is my first experience when I first got elected. It was a week later, and one of my constituents who lives in Mockingbird Valley,
Okay,
and if you understand Mockingbird Valley, it is
right.
made up of some of the more upper echelon, affluent homes and constituents. So, yes, okay,
Moolah. That's
moolah,
an
moolah,
affluent
lots of
area.
it, okay.
Right. Okay.
So, a week later, after I had been elected, this particular constituent had an open house where he was hosting a fundraiser, and he often opens his home to fundraisers because that's
Okay.
what rich people do.
Right.
So
Right.
I was invited, and I was so excited about this first time that I had ever been to this person's home.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful, antebellum, beautiful home.
Right.
Go to the home. The people meet you, greet you, take your car, park it, and you go right in. And I mean, it was fabulous, just beautiful. And it was just my first taste of what was yet to come. But to my surprise, my husband on my side and a lot of people from Louisville, the who's who of Louisville, is
Right.
in this home. So they were mingling about. The gentleman came up to me. I mean, he weaved his way through the crowd and he found me. He says, "You know what? I've been thinking about this. You know why I think you won this election?" And I was just getting ready for him to tell me, "I saw all your yard signs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Got your correspondence and you did great on your communication." I thought he was just going to give me a whirlwind of compliments.
Okay.
So I said, "Oh, no, why?" He said, "Because you know what? I don't think the people in District 7 know you're Black."
Stop. He
Okay.
said that.
Oh, he said it out loud. And several people were standing around. And I
Mm-hmm.
just laughed and I said, "Well, I don't know how that's possible because everything I sent out had my picture
Had
on
your
it."
picture on it.
But you know what? I say that, but the truth of the matter is, everything I sent out, yes, it had my picture, but it also had a group of my white friends because I had to be strategic,
Yeah, you have to be.
you
Yeah.
know. So
But
if
it's
they
it's
did not
now
send me
now
out,
that they know they've embraced you.
they have. It is such a wonderful
Yeah.
opportunity, and I get correspondence from them every week. I send out a weekly newsletter, and
Okay.
they talk to me. They tell me stuff, and they depend on me, especially during the civil unrest, because they've never experienced anything quite like this. Well, and I haven't either, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But they depend on me to kind of walk them through the process of what's really going on. Help me understand what is it that's really happening. How can I help? And then there are those others who address me and say, what is it that Black people want? Why can't they pull themselves up from the bootstrap? And so
Hmm.
I help those people
You
too.
let them know first they have to have boots.
Yeah, and sometimes we need help pulling our boots up.
Right,
Okay,
right.
sometimes you need help.
Well, it's like I was interviewing lawyer attorney Jan Waddell one day, and he was saying, I said, well, I thought we were finished with this in the '60s, and he
Mm,
said, no, we
right.
just stopped.
Oh yeah.
It just stopped. There were certain things, we got certain rights to do certain things, and we just stopped.
Yeah.
So now it is
We got
different that we've,
comfortable, huh?
yeah, we got comfortable.
Yeah.
I actually think of the upbringing, our upbringing. We didn't know that we still were having big problems.
No,
I
because
mean,
every generation should have it better than the previous one. And so we felt that, okay, we have arrived. But our
right.
parents were probably sitting back looking and saying, bless your heart.
Yeah, not yet.
We paid some way for you, and it's better than what it was, but
Right,
there's a long way to go. They could see it, we couldn't see it.
right.
And so as we were traveling and climbing the ladder, we thought,
I
hey,
mean,
this is life. But
yeah,
then we had children, and then we started seeing some things, and then we started realizing, things are not what they seem to
what they
be.
appear to be.
But you know
Mm,
what? We didn't fight the fight the way our parents fought the fight. And so then we had to catch up. And then we had to start, where can I get in? Where do I fit in? Where is my fight? What fight do I want to take on? And then this generation after us,
uh,
the millennial group, they have a different mindset. They don't want to work hard. They don't want they are in this entitlement. I have two millennials, so I can talk about what I know.
I hear you. Okay,
And it's not that they don't care, it's just that we've given them so much, and that's what we are supposed to do. And they just feel privileged and entitled, and when they don't get what they want, they're not very patient, and they don't know how to get in the struggle
right.
and be patient and work their way through it. But the generation after them, they are not playing. They are taking this civil unrest seriously, and they're saying, okay, enough's enough.
Right,
We're fighting for in 2020. My great great grandparents were fighting. Enough of this. We're
right.
sick of this.
We're
It's
still doing
got to
this.
stop. Why are we
Right,
still doing this? And
right.
so I see, there's a horizon, and I see that change is coming to Louisville, Kentucky, and to the nation. We
I'm
got
I'm
some,
look I'm looking forward to it.
yeah.
In talking about change, um, this wonderful article. Why are people so angry? Tell everybody uh, that don't get the Louisville Defender, which they should get the Louisville Defender,
No,
because it is a very affordable, and it is a newspaper about what's going on in our community. So,
absolutely.
so what made you write this article?
Well, to be honest with you, like I stated earlier, I have a lot of constituents who don't get it. I don't know if they don't really get it or they don't want to get it.
Hmm.
But as I was writing one of my newsletters, and someone had literally written me and said, could you help me with this? What is it that Black people want? They
Hmm.
have affirmative action. There's no problem with education. They have access to everything, even more so than white people. What is it they're fighting for now?
Hmm.
That's what made me write that article, because I knew it was bigger than what I could explain to this lady. I
Right,
just wanted to reach out and say, people are angry. People and people are not just angry, but they're hurting. And when
right.
they're hurting, that pain goes deeper. And so they have to figure out a way to get out of that pain.
That frustration.
Yes.
Got to
And
release
so
that
you got
energy
to some
somewhere.
kind of way.
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, and people think that we are a people who are destructive, but that's not in our nature, really. We just want justice.
Right.
but you're not listening. So sometimes we do have to bang on things. Sometimes we
Have to
do
make a
have
little
to
noise.
make a little noise. That's why you see us with the megaphone. That's why you
Right.
see us marching. That's why you probably see some people jumping on the bandwagon and who are not really a part of the movement, but they're saying, hey, enough's enough, and they're breaking windows. Sometimes you just
Right.
gotta make some noise because they're not listening.
Right. Right.
And that's
Not
why I
listening.
wrote the article.
Wow. Well, it was a wonderful article. I said, you went from A, you went on up through there. I said, I know Mr. It was quite pleased with having you to write that for the paper, and I thought it
Yeah,
was an excellent piece.
thank you.
So
There was
now I'm gonna
I
come
don't
back
know.
around to what you've been working on lately, so you can
Oh,
explain. Okay, explain about this Civil Review Board, what it is, what's the mission, what is it supposed to accomplish, what's going to be different about it than the last review board that they had.
okay.
Tell
Well,
us about that.
you might need to know that I served on the Citizens Commission for Police Accountability. And when I was appointed to that position, I thought it was a really big deal to be on that board because
Okay.
I remember when they were having some controversy with Ricky Jones being appointed. It was a really big deal. Like, we don't want that type of person on that board because they're anti-police, and he's very verbal and vocal. And I thought, wow, if they're
Mhm.
trying this hard to stop this man, this
Mhm.
brilliant man, from being on that board, then there's something to this board.
Right.
Well, I didn't hear much about it, but then when I was called and asked to serve on it, I thought, yeah, sure, I can
Right.
get into that.
Right.
Well, I sat on the board, and it got to where I thought it was a waste of time. I didn't enjoy going to the meetings because people would not come and we didn't have a quorum. So we had to dismiss, or they had to cancel a meeting. And I had to discover what is really going on. What was happening was this board was so watered down. The only thing that this board was really doing was listening as the police investigative unit would come and put before us cases that were years old and that
Mhm.
they had just solved. And all we were doing was saying, oh, okay, they were presenting the case as it was closed. And what
Right.
do you do after the fact but say, oh, okay?
Right.
And then that was all we were doing. There was never conversation on any current shooting. There was never any type of investigation that we were involved in. And it was just a total, what the young folks say, nothing burger. And so,
Right. Right.
yeah, it was just ineffective. And it
Right.
was a total waste of anybody's pencil, pen and paper that they would have put on as an ordinance. And so when I got elected, I had to get off of the board because it was a conflict of interest. And I was all
Oh,
the
so
more,
you were on the board before you became a councilwoman.
yes, yes.
Okay.
I,
Okay. Okay.
I
I
was
got
I was a sitting member of the board when I got elected,
you.
and
Okay.
so it was advised that I, resign from the board because of appearance of conflicts of interest, and I did.
Okay.
But I knew that that was a part of the first piece of legislation that I wanted to take up because I thought if this is going to be a board, it has to be effective.
Need some teeth.
It needs some teeth. And so I picked up the legislation and I started reading it. I started consulting people. I started
Mhm.
asking questions, started doing some research, and I discovered, oh, there's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
Right.
And if this is going to be effective, it's going to have to ruffle some feathers. We're going to have to get the FOP to understand that it's not anti-police. They're going to have to come on board and work with this thing with me. Well, the
Right.
more I worked on it, the more I realized this is really too heavy for me as a freshman council
Mhm.
person. So
Okay.
I called David James, the president of the council at the
Right.
time, he still is, and I said to him, I said I wanted to work on this legislation, but I don't think the timing is right. I'm going to put it over to the side and wait because it's just a little much for me right now. And I
Mhm.
was thinking about repercussions of the heavyweights that you
Right.
would have to affect in order to make this with a lot of teeth and in
Right.
effect. So I
Make it
really,
come to life.
yeah, in order for it to come to life, it had to really, I mean, you had to be a bold somebody to step into that. And
Right.
I thought at this moment in time, God guided me properly because I put that legislation to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was the next year, we're in 2020. And when civil unrest began, I said, okay, God, look at your timing.
Mm-hmm.
Pick that legislation right back up. The mayor created this work group. They named me as co-chair of it. I had the legislation right there ready to go.
Right.
And here it
That's
is.
yeah, that was and it took you all what, a few months?
5 months.
5 months? Okay,
Yes,
okay.
5 months. And what we would do is write, I had the legislation and I kind of knew what I wanted in that legislation. Remember, it was just really too heavy for one person to be carrying
Right,
as a freshman, as a new somebody.
right,
Okay. I had to kind of let people know what I was working with before I could carry such heavy load.
right.
Well, and so what I did was took that legislation that I had started writing and we introduced it to the work group, one section at a time. And as we introduced the sections, either they agreed or they asked questions and they added to it, they took away and they said, what about this? And as we gave them work to really do, they had to research. We gave them research and they had to look at different models of
Mm-hmm.
different civilian review boards in different states, different
Mm-hmm.
cities.
Different
And
cities, uh-huh.
yeah, and so they were aware, and I had recommendations. There are three types of civilian review boards. There's an investigative piece, there is an
Okay,
audit piece, and
okay.
then there's, just the regular, uh, overview, over,
A rubber stamper.
right. And,
The rubber stamper.
and
Okay, next.
so I wanted a combination of all of it. I wanted to be able to investigate because I knew serving on the other board that we didn't have that piece. We were not involved in the investigation at all. So I wanted this one to be investigative and audit. I wanted to be able to have this board to look at the programs and the policies and the procedures of the
Right,
Louisville Metro Police Department to see and to audit to see if they're doing best practices and things that really help a community thrive and
right,
that they are doing fair and just and getting trained properly. So guess what? We combined all those, and most cities have maybe one, an
right,
odd piece, or maybe they have an investigative. We combined and we got it all in one ordinance.
right, right.
I'm
That was
I'm so
wonderful.
proud of the work group and how we came together and agreed on these sections, and it's a really good piece of legislation.
It sounds like it's got a lot of potential. The one thing I guess uh that I was looking at when they talk about the inspector general,
Yes. Hmm.
that sounds like it should be to me
Hmm.
just like an inspector general that they have in federal government,
That's
that
right.
it too should have some teeth,
That's exactly
some
right.
some power, some
That's
subpoena
exactly
power.
right. Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
I was looking, how's that working, how's that
You know,
coming along?
let me just say, a lot of people are, kind of holding back and reserving judgment until subpoena power is granted. But I am encouraging us not to belabor on that, not
Right,
to say, I don't know. Just give it a good try in that we may not get subpoena power because it has to be granted at the state level. And we have to convince the people outside of Jefferson County to give Jefferson County this authority. Not only that, but there are people right within Jefferson County who are our delegation uh, standard bearers on the
right,
state legislature who may not really want that peace, because FOP may not want that peace. But I don't think they heard me say that this having subpoena power, it's helpful for the police department, because if
Right.
I were LMPD and someone accused me of any type of misconduct,
Hmm.
I would not only want my own department to research it, but I want another set of eyes for the
Right.
community to see that it's investigated to the fullest, because I didn't do it. And I want
Right.
that to come out in the end. Now, if you have something to hide, you might not want us to have
You might
subpoena.
not want. Right.
Okay? You might
Right.
not want a civilian review board.
Right.
But LMPD, in order to establish the trust and the respect that you deserve, you gotta embrace the civilian review board and this inspector general,
Yes.
because it's all for your good. Because if
Well,
someone,
it's all needed. We've been like a city that's been running without that one mechanism for a very long time, and that's why a lot of things that have happened as far as any wrongdoing on the part of LMPD, has not gone uh, far enough.
well, let me
You
just
know.
say, it's really not the lack of having a civilian review board. It
Hmm.
is the lack of having the proper leadership at the helm of
Okay.
Louisville Metro Police Department.
Okay.
For
Okay.
far too long, we have not had the right person in place to make sure that policies and procedures are followed, and
Okay.
that the right command staff are actually on the ground and supervising those young people who are on the streets. Really, LMPD anymore is made up of a lot of new people, a lot of young people. And some of the old guards are retiring or moving on to these smaller cities that pay better.
Right.
So as they come on as new policemen, we've got to train them better. And we got to not teach them the old stuff and the
Right.
bad stuff and the secretive stuff. Got to train them properly. And,
And
and
there's got to be some racial sensitivity in there.
uh, let me tell you,
Living in a diverse city.
without that piece, the department fails. And
Right.
so in this new civilian review board piece, we wrote in there that the board members must take implicit bias training. So guess what? We want LMPD to take that same type of training. You see?
Exactly.
Because
Exactly.
if you don't like who you serve,
How can
you're
you
not going
serve?
to treat them right. How can you serve them?
Right.
And so we all have biases. We all know that if you don't want to be called a racist, or if you're not by virtue of being a black person can't be a racist, that's what they say. But we all have our biases. We all have some type of prejudice.
Right.
But when I took an implicit bias training, I said, "Ooh, shameful, Paula. I learned some things about myself that I didn't realize."
Yeah.
It was an eye opener. So I think everybody should be exposed to implicit bias training, because I mean, certain things that we think of in our mind, we have no idea that it really spills over into our actions. And
Hmm.
I'm telling you, it's a new day for Louisville, Kentucky. And it's just not the civilian review board. That's a symbol of something better to come. But the overarching goal is to make sure LMPD is run properly. And I think this new police chief should be the key to a part of that, along with this inspection, that they have this top to bottom review of the entire department that might reveal some lack of management that they need to incorporate back into LMPD. And I think it all works together to create.
Now that's the study that's going on from an outside group.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
That's
And
good. That's a
hopefully that
good
will
thing.
come out by the end of the year, if not the first of the year. I'm anxious to see that myself.
Right.
And, if you pay somebody from the outside to come and look on the inside, they ought to be finding something. And if they conclude that everything is fine, then I'm going to ask for a refund.
Right. Right. Because something's got to be wrong.
Something's wrong.
We've been
Something's
doing
wrong.
some of these things for a very long time.
And it ain't working, right?
No, no, show ain't working. So that's insane. It's
Right.
insane. So how can it be fine? So are we closer to finding a new police chief?
From my understanding, I heard the mayor say that he would be making an announcement the first of the year.
Okay.
So I suspect that they've narrowed it down.
Wow. Well, I was hoping that it would be somebody from the from the city.
Really?
In a way,
Hmm.
because at least they know the culture of the city. The culture of Louisville being such a segregated city that it is.
Well,
You
but
know,
every city has the same element.
sure,
And,
sure.
and I think I can see the beauty of having somebody who's aware of the intricate details of Louisville,
Okay.
but the beauty of having someone coming in fresh that doesn't know the players. Now, Louisville,
Right. It's good not to know the players because we
woo,
cliquish.
cliquish. And
We're
so,
cliquish.
yeah. So that's my concern with somebody internal, or somebody
Yeah.
internal meaning Louisville, because they already know the players and
Look,
they know what they can do and what they can't do, what they can't step over. And so somebody coming in fresh don't know any better, any
right.
better.
Because Louisvillians will tell you, well, I know so and so. And
In a quick
everybody
minute.
knows somebody.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
look, I love my Louisvillians, but I just
I do
know
too.
how we move and
Yeah.
how we kind of navigate this terrain.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to ask you, Paula, is how do you feel having become a councilwoman? Is it something that has been fulfilling to you to be able to be a public servant per se?
It is more than I imagined, because I knew what I was capable of. I knew what
Yeah,
I brought to the table. I knew what my desires are and my wishes and my concerns for the community. But little did I know that there was so much that you have to tackle at one given time.
right,
Little did I know that things were as bad as they are, because you don't know until you are really involved in it.
right.
I had no idea that our budget was in such a desperate way.
Disarray. Yeah.
Because the first year I was on the council, the mayor gathered us together and said, we need to increase taxes. Well, now I don't know if you know, but my background is banking.
Okay. No, I
And
didn't know.
so, yeah, that's how I got to Louisville. PNC Bank recruited me. It was Citizens Fidelity at the point
Right.
at the
I
time.
remember
They,
citizens.
yes, and they recruited me from Nashville, Tennessee, and
Okay.
moved my family here.
Okay.
So I was in banking, and that's my background. So
Okay.
as he asked for a tax increase, numbers is my thing.
I
So,
hear you. I
oh,
hear you.
so I started looking at the budget, but any good budget has some hidden value in it. So
Mm-hmm.
when you toss over the budget and you look at it upside down and you start asking questions, you realize some things. And I started realizing some things. And I said, well, before I vote to increase some taxes, I want to know, why are we doing this? Where is this money going? How are we utilizing this money? Why can't we use this? Can you move this over here?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the more questions that I ask, the more unanswered questions and more of the answers I was not getting.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I saw where we didn't have to raise taxes. What I saw was a lot of a lot of
Access.
and I'm not going to call it access, but what I am going to say is we had enough operating funds to make it. All
Okay.
you needed to do was reimagine how you wanted to run the city. And instead
Okay.
of this program that may not be effective, let's move that and
Mm-hmm.
put it over here where you're asking for the increase.
Right.
So I was one of the ones who led the charge in educating some of my colleagues on,
Mm-hmm.
no, here's what I'm looking at. Here's why I can tell you we don't need to increase tax.
Right.
And then the taxes that he wanted to increase were in the insurance agency sector.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at that on the West End, every insurance premium that you can find, car, home, or what have you, was double what
Sky
people
high.
were paying in my district. And I'm saying, as
Sky
long,
high.
it's ridiculous. And I
Yes.
said, as long as the insurance agencies are allowed to discriminate like that and to, but then I got educated on that too, because their formulas that they use, it's based on
Zip code.
crime rates, well, not just the zip code, but what's going on within those zip codes, right?
Right.
And so because of that, the rates are slightly higher because the risk is higher.
Right.
And so that's kind of understandable, but it wasn't enough to satisfy me to say we need to raise the insurance premium tax because this portion of our community can't afford one more dollar of
Right.
paying in insurance. So
Right.
I was fighting against the tax increase. And that didn't make me very popular as a new councilwoman within government, but I didn't care because was I not elected to speak for the
Right.
people?
Right.
And my district overwhelmingly did not want taxes. Now, the West End folks may not have wanted taxes because they couldn't afford not one more dollar.
Right.
My constituents didn't want it because they hoard their dollars. They
Right.
just don't want to pay.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You see, two
Yeah.
different reasons, but yet they were reasons.
Right.
And overwhelmingly, my community was saying absolutely not to the increase. And I was saying, well, not only am I hearing you, but I am seeing where it's not necessary.
Right.
And I voted no, and I got others to vote no right along with me, and we defeated that tax increase. And you see
Okay.
what happened at the end of the year? We had a
Had
$17
a surplus.
million surplus. Come on now. And that,
Somebody didn't know how to count.
yes, they knew. But you know what? Sometimes you got to ask the question. Sometimes you just can't rubber stamp everything. You can't, you got
Right.
to ask questions. As this is what I learned as a legislator. But I didn't learn it being a legislator. I learned it just being who I am.
Right. Right.
You don't just go along to get
Get
along
along. Right.
because that's your task is bigger than you. You're representing 28,000 people, 30,000
And
people.
that's just as detrimental to you, even before it's detrimental to your constituents.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes,
because you're standing on the front line,
absolutely.
and especially if your game is numbers anyway,
Ooh,
they
I
they
mean,
they,
how
they
could I?
should have paid attention to
Yeah, see?
doing your game was numbers. I love that. I love that,
Yeah.
Paula. That's
Mm, mm.
that's something, because I know I actually ran for office once. I am not
Oh,
upset that yeah, I
no, I mean, it takes two or three times. I'm a witness. You don't sometimes get them on the first try.
no, I had enough. It was enough. It was just some things that well, one of my philosophies in life was that I don't play games that I can't win at. That's like
Yeah, that makes it difficult and I tell people, don't call me a politician. Those are fighting. That's a
oh,
fighting word. I'm a public servant. I am not a politician.
I
Okay.
hear you. I hear
But
you.
you do
Well,
have
I
to
want
fight
to.
the fight.
Is there anything else that you want the community to know on your behalf as far as where we are and where you're hoping to, with your leadership and your participation in metro government, where you want to see the city moving?
Well, I see a new day dawning. I really do. I believe that justice will prevail. It may not look like what we all have in our minds as justice, but what we need to do is really embrace all of the things that we know we can affect and make change happen. And when we do get something like a civilian review board or the no knock warrant that
Right, right,
ordinance that we approved. When
Right.
we get our wins, we need to celebrate those wins. And then we need to strategize and say, okay, what's next on the agenda? But as we have our list, we need to mark it off one by one, our accomplishments, because
Right.
sometimes our people don't celebrate enough. We're just on, tirelessly to the next thing, to the next thing. We need to stop, take a breath, and celebrate our wins.
And be open to change.
Oh,
We have
definitely,
we have to be open
definitely.
to some change. As far as
Yeah.
I was talking to, um, I met with had an interview with Akram from Kentucky Center for African American Heritage on Monday, and we were talking about being able to come and speak with one voice.
I know. We have a hard time with that.
But we need to work
We
on that.
need it. We need it badly.
We can't keep saying that and keep doing things the same way and not moving forward.
My mother
Because
used to
in a
say,
way that has us stuck in some places.
well, that is a big problem. My mother used to say to me all the time, not too many chiefs and not enough.
No Indians. Right,
And so if we stop wanting to be the one,
right,
or the voice for all,
right,
and just be a collective voice, if we could learn to just be in lockstep instead of being in competition,
right,
we can get there.
right.
We can get there. And I also see that as something that could happen. Um, there's just a few folk that we need to just kind of
We need to
embrace
just bring them along. And
and
see,
love
it's
on.
a lot about no one really saying that, because everybody who's somebody that steps up to say something, that's fine. That's fine and dandy. What about all these other voices? That's why I do this show, because I want voices that are unheard
Yeah.
sometimes, that have just as much to say as anybody else. I think
Yeah.
I have just as much to say as
Yeah.
anybody else, as you
Yeah.
could probably tell.
Well, yes,
But
you.
well, I mean, I think that's how we move together. Like
Yeah.
you say, when we lock arms and seeing what we can do as far as overcoming, like we used to do at the end of the march
That's
or the
right.
meeting at church, we
Yes.
did that together.
Back when we had Martin Luther King, he was like the one, and he was the leader of the civil
Right,
rights movement,
right,
and that was fine for then, right?
right, right,
So now we may not necessarily need one person to lead us because we're all leaders, but
right,
what we do need is an opportunity to allow those who have the the gumption and the passion to help. And it could be
right.
10, 15, 20 leaders,
Absolutely.
but just make room for them.
Right.
Just
But
invite
we
them
all
to
must
the table
need to move on that
at the
purpose.
same
The
time.
same purpose, the same reason, the same goal. Let's
That's
go conquer
exactly
this
right.
one. Then we move on to this one, get to the next one.
That's
Miss
exactly
Paula
right.
McCraney, I want to say thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's just been a joy talking to you. Like
Good,
you're in my
good.
living room.
Well, that's like it's dinner time somewhere. I said, I know my husband's in here getting ready to feed our faces. And I want to say thank you so much. God bless you and all your hard work that you put in.
Thank you.
And we're proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing, because as they say, each one teach one. I know you're
Yeah,
teaching a whole bunch of folks about what's going on in the community and
yeah,
how we can make it better.
yes.
Until
Thank
next
you.
time, I want to say, guess who's coming to dinner? Tonight it was Miss Paula, Councilwoman Paula McCraney from District 7. Take care of yourself. Be safe.
Thank you. It was a joy.
Thank you,
Appreciate
darling. Hello, Louisville. Guess who's coming to dinner? Say nothing, did it?